welcome back to Occasional Randomness. I'm your host, Eric Scott, and joining me, as always, my fellow co-host, someone who loves it when a plan comes together, Jason Johnson.
You ain't getting me on no plane, Hannibal.
I pity the fool that don't like Farscape.
Yeah, I kind of feel like we've used that before, but cool.
I mean, it's been like, what, 40 plus episodes? I'm sure we have. I think we have, actually, but you know what? This has a plan. They're doing plans. That's the first thing
You
that came
know,
to my head. So,
if nothing else, it gives me another chance to try to map Farscape people to TV show characters, which is always a fun side habit of mine. So, that's the only reason it stuck in my head.
yeah, and I'm pretty sure we did that too. I think we mapped Farscape to A-Team. I'm pretty sure we have.
Yep.
And a podcast we released just recently from Private Pirate Podcast, we proved conclusively that James Gunn ripped off Farscape for Guardians of the Galaxy. And actually, later on in interviews, he even admitted that. So, hey, there we go. We're ahead of our time. We
Yep.
got something right for once.
I think I'm going to build a list of who I want to map Farscape to. Like, I'm thinking like Ghostbusters and, what random, like, iconic groupings can we just, like, assign characters to be? I think that'd be a fun little sideshow. So.
Yeah, I think the best though, if you've watched Stargate, would be was it Stargate number 200, episode 200, where they have like a little weird thing going on, but they try to sell this guy some stories, and one of the stories is this Farscape concept, and they map the SG1 characters that they play different Farscape characters, which of course at that point Ben Browder was in Farscape, and so was Claudia Black. I mean, in SG1, so.
Please tell me they didn't play
No, they're
themselves. They
playing
played
different.
other
Yeah,
characters. That'd be perfect. I want to see like Claudia Black as Gianna or
yeah. I
something.
think she was. I think she was Chiana, and Ben was playing Stark.
Oh God.
And they had the face mask. They had the whole thing. It was hilarious. It was. You can look it up on a clip of like it was like Farscape 200 SG1 200 or Wormhole Extreme, something like that. It's you can look it up, but yeah, it's hilarious. It's like 30 seconds long, but it's hilarious.
Yeah. The other one I'd like to figure out a way to do is to do it. They do it to the Muppets. What was the Muppets show? Muppets in Space or something they did.
Hmm.
Yeah, that one.
But we digress. Anyway, all right. So tonight we are going to finish the first multi-part episode of Farscape Season 4 with Episode 3, What Was Lost, Part 2, Resurrection. And then just for funnies, we'll briefly talk about the latest Star Wars animated short that was on Disney Plus, Tales of the Empire. And next time we will probably, as of us thinking about this, we'll discuss the latest Star Wars live action series, The Acolyte, that debuted just a few days ago as we record this. So by the time we record again, we'll probably maybe get the first half because it's only 8 episodes, right? We said so.
Yeah, and that's a good breaking point. So
Yeah, it's usually good to do like the first half. That way we'll have to devote like a whole podcast to the entire series, a la Ahsoka.
yeah,
So
we do learn lessons
yeah,
occasionally.
yeah, occasionally, randomly. All right, and always our free PSA plug here, whatever you want to call it. If you like what we do here, please give us a like or review wherever you listen to this fine podcast at, or watch the video on YouTube or wherever, or help spread the word and let people know about us. We would appreciate it.
Yeah, because speaking of free, this is free, so it's free to share.
That's right. Share and enjoy. All right. So let's jump into the Farscape part here with Farscape Season 4, Episode 3, What Was Lost, Part 2, Resurrection. Even though my document says Part 1, there, now it's Part 2. Okay, so we're good. All right. Yes, you get to see how the sausage is made here, folks. That's when you cut and
For
paste.
professionals.
When you cut and paste and forget to change the number.
How many years have we been doing that?
No. 4? Anyway.
Yeah, just this one.
Oh yeah, just this. All right, so if you remember from our exciting cliffhanger or cliff jump from last time, this time, following his cliff jump, Crichton is floating unconscious in the water. Once again, he's startled by Uni, not the creature from the Black Lagoon ripoff, as he swims to shore, and we see a horde of peacekeepers waiting with guns ready. Uni drags him back underwater, and takes John to his lair, under the impression that John is with Grayza. He tells John that Vela was his friend. He won't let John take what she discovered. John insists he won't tell anybody where that third probe is buried, adding that he is definitely not, with Grayza. But this just makes Uni want to know where that final probe is located. Then Dargo and Sakozu arrive in Uni's lair, and Dargo yells that he told Uni to find John, not to kill him, and tells him to get off of John. So Uni swims away behind a pillar as Dargo shoves John back in the pool with a "What is that stench?" Sakozu sniffs and thinks she may know the answer, or the reason. The reason what? Asks John. Dargo interjects, "You know, about you and Grayza, and because apparently now everybody knows what went on between him and Grayza. But Sakozu says that the smell could be the mysterious HEPA oil. Some concubines have a gland implanted that extrudes this oil as they sweat. Its perfume aggressively targets the erogenous zones. Although she doesn't think that Grayza would ever want to do that because its side effects are irreversible. Once the gland is implanted, the concubines die prematurely, cycles before their time." John says, yeah, that's nice, but he doesn't want to go anywhere near Grayza again. But Dargo insists they have to see her one more time to, as the humans say, take one for the team. Meanwhile, Grayza has Jewel and Chiana, and they have a plan to get them out, but they're operating on a need-to-know basis, and because of what happened previously, they think John only needs to be told his part. John, as you might expect, is not too happy about this, but Dargo says it's the right thing to do. John just needs to keep Grayza occupied for a couple of arns and wait for Dargo's signal. Dargo reminds John that when the Peacekeepers find him, it has to be believable, which John ensures yes, he can do that. Dargo asks, "Are you really sure?" And before Crichton can say anything, Dargo tongues him unconscious anyway. How rude.
Yeah, you know, take your shots where you can.
That's right. Enjoy it while you can. So the Peacekeepers find John washed up on the rocks, unconscious. He wakes up tied in a room with Grayza, where he tells her he wasn't trying to escape. He just wanted to go for a swim. I don't know. Anyway, she gets on his back and uses her influence to try to get him to tell her why the Scarens want him so badly, adding that if he tells her, she'll help him find his true love, Aaron, soon. Braca, meanwhile, gleefully forces a leashed up like a dog Scorpius to drink from a big bucket of water on the floor. This just happens to be outside the cell where the old woman tells Gianna that she had no choice, John had to die. Jewel, meanwhile, notices that the magnetics are dropping because the color is fading from everything: rocks, skin, walls, everything. And it's getting harder by the minute.
Because that's how magnetics work.
Yeah, because magnetic fields equal losing color and getting hotter. Anyway, if they stay here 10 more arns, they'll all be dead, the flesh cooked off their bones. Gianna insists that she'll get them out of this when Sakozu comes along asking who's in charge. She sees Braca and tells him that she's his promotion. Meanwhile, Dargo flies up to Elak on his ship, where he tells Rigel that if they can get Elak to crash into the Marauders, then they might be able to escape, or at least get far enough away so the Grand Carrier can't track them anymore. Dargo says that John does not know about the plan to use Elak, but they have no other option. Rigel believes he can convince the pilot, but tells Dargo that they can't trust Sakozu. She might betray them again, but Dargo says, yeah, we have no choice. Meanwhile, Grayza asks if wormholes are in space all the time, why can't they be seen? Good question. John explains that under the right conditions they turn and appear, but he doesn't know how to make them do that yet. Brackett comes in and interrupts and whispers important news to Grayza as Sakozu stands with the Peacekeepers in the background. As they're speaking, John picks up a sharp object laying nearby, conveniently, and when Grayza comes back over, she tells John that his Luxon friend has failed. He's being hunted as they speak. John goes to stab her, but is unable to, as if hindered by an invisible force. She tells him not to fight her. John says that she wouldn't do this so far away from Peacekeeper High Command, so he wonders if she's just playing Scorpius' whore. Ooh,
Ooh.
savage burn. And that probably comes into what's next. Outside, John has dug a hole, and Grayza offers him a pulse pistol with one charge, with which to kill Scorpius and ruin everything. But John thinks there's no charge at all in the pistol. So Grayza hands over to Braca, who shoots Scorpius in the back at point-blank range. Oops. Scorpius falls into the grave, seemingly dead, and Sakozu is pushed in over top of him by a guard. Sakozu says that Scorpius is dead, and then Grayza instructs a guard to shoot her too. So much for the plan. Sakozu pleads with her, but Grayza is not interested. Braca prepares to shoot her, but Scorpius, who's still alive, barely, whispers to her to say a certain word and it'll keep her alive.
So he was just mostly dead.
That's right. There's a joke there somewhere, but anyway. I have lots of Princess Bride quotes going through my head, but so she repeats the secret word, and everybody stops. As Scorpius whispers, "Don't let them bury me." Sakozu gets out, and Grayza asks her how she knows the special Peacekeeper Directorate Code. Sakozu says it's the same reason she does, and suggests that Scorpius not be buried, but rather be left to rot in the sun as a warning to others. But Grayza has none of that, and orders Scorpius buried.
So much for his last request.
Yeah. Dargo arrives back on the planet. Rigel has convinced the pilot, who agrees to sacrifice themselves, and then bids Rigel farewell. Meanwhile, Grayza, having once again drugged John with her beads of sweat, is still interrogating him, saying that he doesn't just have to talk about the Scarens. John, who's half stripped and tied to her bed, then spots a small creature crawling up the wall nearby and remembers the old woman from last episode, telling him about the substance that would make him forget. He wonders if that might help him combat Grayza's hold over him. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the compound there, Dargo knocks out some soldiers as Sakozu enters the girl's cell. Jewel grabs her by the throat as the guard runs in, whom Sakozu tells to stand down. Sakozu turns Jewel around and holds her as Chiana gets Sakozu from behind. Sakozu now explains that she didn't really betray them, but needed a way to get into the cell. Dargo had a plan, and Sakozu explains that she wasn't killed because she uttered the special code. It saved her life, and if they stop fighting her, she will save theirs. So Jewel tells Chiana to put her fingers in Sakozu's ears, and Jewel screams, melting off their handcuffs, which, remember, she can do that sort of thing. They all turn to the guards, smile, and knock them out.
As you do.
You know, while the guards just stand there and not shoot. Anyway, fine, whatever. Maybe they're stunned from the scream. I don't know. Meanwhile, Grayson examines the tile that John found and says that it means their two species may be more closely linked than they think. John manages to get hold of some of that forgetful substance from that little creature we learned about last episode and shoves it up his nose so he won't remember anything.
Because mixing two narcotics is always a good plan.
Yeah. Don't drink and do drugs, kids. That's
Yeah, please note this podcast does not
endorsing
contain any sufficient medical advice. You're on your own.
Meanwhile, Dargo tells Rigel to get Pilot to begin the countdown. Rigel has DRD 1812 fixing his transport and tells Pilot that she must start the descent in 1,000 microts, and then says his goodbyes. Back on the planet, John has Grayza tied up now, as Close to Death Pilot starts Elak's descent prematurely. Rigel tells Dargo he lets Chiana know and signals John. John gets his things together, puts his clothes on, as Grayza tells him to untie her, and orders him to stay. On his way out, grinning triumphantly that he's gotten away from Grayza's wiles, he's met at the end of the corridor by Brackett and a group of peacekeepers, who John taunts before a shootout begins. Meanwhile, Rigel tries to get Pilot to stop the descent, as Dargo explains to John that Elak left early. Oops. John says that's wonderful, I need some help here. So Chiana sends the old woman to find Lola and brings Sakozu with her and Jewel. Grayza picks up the sharp object, aforementioned before, so she can cut herself loose. Meanwhile, John's gun runs out of juice, well, oil. As the girls arrive, they try to use that password trick again, but this time it does not work. The peacekeepers continue firing. John asks for Chiana's gun, manages to fight them off long enough to run across the corridor, and they all flee to Dargo's ship. Grayza storms out and berates Braca, who says that it seems they do in fact have a ship. Grayza orders him that they must not escape. John and the girls are having trouble finding Lola, I guess as it's cloaked, as Elak flies over the ruins, causing a rumble. Rigel manages to just wake up Pilot and get her to pull up just in time. As his pod is finally finished, he departs. The others find and reach Dargo's ship, but the peacekeepers are following when John's gun once again runs out of oil. Pilot tells Elak, "We must try, otherwise this would have all been in vain. Target the marauders." And while the others pile into Dargo's ship and leave, Pilot says, "Elak, now!" And the Leviathan comes crashing down onto the marauders as Lola barely escapes the massive destruction. On Dargo's ship, they've gotten away, but he reports that Lola's deception shield has been damaged, meaning they'll reappear in 100 microts. Meanwhile, the magnetics are spiking, and Braca says that 2 marauders were destroyed, but one is operational just barely, so they can make it back to the command carrier, although Crichton will have a 2-Arn head start. Grayza insists that they are picked up in flight, as they're going after them now. The old woman, remember her? She's still on the planet, muttering that the probes are still here, when Uni approaches her and tells her not to be afraid. He knows a way. Meanwhile, Dargo and the crew have been forced to land due to Lola's damage. He fired a satellite probe in the hopes of throwing the peacekeepers off for about a day. Dargo insists that they'll be gone by then. Although, look at your skin, Joel retorts. If they stay here one more Arn, they'll all be dead anyway. John recalls Vela talking about the probe, and Joel reminds him that if they get all 3 probes 600 motras apart, which is about meters, I guess, and reactivates them, then the magnetics will be reversed, and off they go to find the final probe. Meanwhile, the old woman realizes that she was wrong all along. It's Uni, not Vela, who wants to use the probe as a weapon. She tells him that she will never reveal where the probe is. When Jewel and Crichton come along and tell Granny that they're going probe hunting, and John ushers Uni off dismissively. That goes about as well as you expect. Uni reveals that he's wearing the Serax carver, and he's been searching for the Darnax Triangle for 20 cycles. He insists John tell him the probe's location, or he'll kill them all.
Curse your inevitable betrayal.
That's right.
Sudden but inevitable betrayal.
John says they have to reverse the magnetics, and they need the old woman as backup. Uni ensures that they all walk ahead of him, and John leads them to the probe. He asks Uni where the other probes are, and he reveals they're in his lair. And Vela swore he'd get half of the bounty on the crew, but now he'll get it all. Uni retrieves the third and final probe, and Chiana appears, and a fight begins. Jewel manages to get hold of the Cerex Carver, but can't shoot Uni as he still holds the probe. Uni jumps off the cliff into the water, and the old woman tells them that he can live underwater until the magnetic storm ends. She retrieves Winona, that's John's trusty old pulse pistol, from somewhere under her clothes and throws it over the cliff, also prompting John to dive in after it to get it back. Jewel tells Chiana to help John while she gets the other probes. And in the water, John and Uni get into an underwater fight, but just as Uni is about to knock John out, Chiana manages to shoot him from the shore. John, out for a short while, manages to resurface, then dives down to get both the probe and Winona. Jewel, meanwhile, has gotten both probes, and John thanks Chiana for saving his life once again. He tells Chiana to go to Jewel, get the other probe, and reactivate it. How do I do that? She asks. I don't know, just slam him in the ground and kick him or something, John says.
Scientific.
Hey, that's technology. You just kick it a bunch of times, it works.
Percussive maintenance.
That's how all technology works. You beat it enough times and it turns on.
Yeah.
So the group spreads out, and all three slam their probes into the ground. After a few seconds of nothing happening, the probes all rise up into the sky, reactivate, and the Darnaz triangle reverses the effects of the magnetics, restoring everything back to its original color. As the old woman puts it, what was lost is now gained. John calls the others to check something out. The lost Darnaz temple and the priests have somehow reappeared, much to their surprise. Probably both people's surprises, them and John and the company. The old woman says that the Darnaz Triangle must have somehow trapped part of the past when it created the magnetic summers. Jill explains rather excitedly that these are the same priests that were here 12,000 cycles ago, and it looks like they don't know what has happened. And John asks, do they stay or do they go? They being the crew, not the priest.
They gotta go.
Yeah. They just were. Now they're back. They just were gone. Now they're back. Dargo thinks that that decision should be Jules, as she's the instructor now, so she goes to greet the priests. Later, we cut to Jules saying goodbye to Chiana, goes to John and says everything they found proves their species are linked. John wishes that he could stay, but Jill knows that he can't because of Aaron. He tells her to take care, and Dargo goes over asking if he's the last one to talk to. Jill tells him she can't convince any of them to stay. Dargo says she's the only one that can, as she's not being hunted by peacekeepers. She says that the priests will need help. They have 12,000 cycles of catching up to do. She tells Dargo that she is so sorry for not defending him earlier when unfairly insulted by Vela. Maybe he wasn't Vela's intellectual equal, but he has more courage, integrity, and honor than a dozen Velas, and she should have said that to him. They exchange a lingering kiss, and Dargo leaves. Braca tells Grayza that they've retrieved the satellite probe. It must have been a lure. I will find them again, and when I do, they will pay for this humiliation, she vows. She tells Braca that if she hears any gossip, anything at all about what happened on Arnesk, he shall personally answer for it. And we cut to the end here where everybody's on board Dargo's ship, except for John, who's being towed behind in his module. Dargo says that at least Joel won't be hunted anymore by the peacekeepers, unlike us, Chiana adds. She could stay on Arnesk, have a goal, something to fight for, Dargo continues, unlike us. Rigel sarcastically points out how good things get in their current situation. The old woman points out that John has a purpose. John asks her, yeah, then why'd you nearly kill me? She tells him that she couldn't let him tell Grayza about the probes. Better you, one dead, than millions. John asks her name, again, this time. He finally gets an answer. Utu Naranti Pralatong, she replies, which I will never say again. Well, Naranti, you're quite right. I do have a purpose, John says. The end.
Dun, dun, dun.
All right, some quick trivia about this episode. The Egyptian symbol, recognized by Crichton, is the Eye of Horus. Although Dargo apparently met Sikozu for the first time in Part 1, which we commented on, they have already established some level of trust, enough to create a plan to defeat the Peacekeepers. Later, though, when Dargo meets Rigel on the old Leviathan, Rigel tells Dargo he's convinced Sikozu will betray them again, suggesting the two spent time comparing notes about the newcomer. Tammy McIntosh departs as a regular with this episode. At the time, she had been cast in a recurring role in the medical drama All Saints, and her temporary departure from the series allowed her to juggle the two roles. And finally, oddly enough, it's mentioned more than once here that Jewel is not wanted by the Peacekeepers, despite the fact that she was involved in and arrested for the plot to destroy that command carrier back in last season's Into the Lion's Den Part 2, Wolf in Sheep's Clothing. All right, so that's our conclusion to this first multi-part story of the season. Given our thoughts about last time, what'd you think? Weren't really excited about the first part, so did they manage to bring it home with the conclusion here?
I'm not sure if brought it home is the response I would have. Yeah, which again, odd for a multi-parter for us. We'll probably say that more than once, but we've historically liked those. Will say I definitely enjoyed this part more than the first. You know, Probably because it had more action and movement, where part one seemed to delight in making no sense. But yeah, probably it was okay. I didn't dislike it, which is a step up.
Yeah, I mean, I'll agree. I liked it better than the first part, because at least here they kind of explain most everything that they left wide open last time, but they left some things still up in the air, to whet your appetite for future episodes, maybe. Like, the exact relationship between the Interons, Sebaceans, and humans. So we'll see if that comes up again. We have our typical, usual crazy Farscape plan made up by some of the team, in this case, because you have to keep quiet in the dark, much to his annoyance. And of course, like all their plans, it does kind of go off the rails a little bit, but our heroes, as always, adapt, improvise, and overcome. So, yeah, I mean, overall, it was a good episode, a good conclusion to the story. Was it the best thing ever? No. Was it the worst thing ever? No.
Yeah, I'd put it to where they averaged together to make an average episode and all. Right, it wasn't the highs, wasn't the super lows. It was just kind of in the middle.
Yeah, which is kind of a departure from what we said before, and like every multi-parter we've said has been like amazing and wonderful, and sets the stage for multi-parters to come. This one, I mean, okay, I mean, if there has to be a multi-parter that's at the bottom of a list of multi-parters, okay, this was one of them.
Right. They can't all be diamonds, right?
That's right. Is it the most horrible thing we've ever seen at Farscape? Not by a long shot.
Oh no,
So,
it's no
yeah,
DNA alien or
yeah,
whatever.
DNA mad scientist.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah,
I can't even remember it correctly. It's so bad.
yeah.
So
All right. So speaking of said plan that goes off the rails, sort of thing, what do you think about their plan? And I guess also to get that third probe and reverse the effects. I mean, seemed to go pretty well. Although I think, like I kind of said before, I don't really know what Sakosu's plan was supposed to be, or did I miss that in this episode? I can't. I'm trying to think back. I don't remember if they kind of mentioned what she was going to do. Was it just to divert the peacekeepers away from Dargo? I guess Dargo's parts of the plan seemed to be okay. He didn't have any problems, so that worked. But if it wasn't for Scorpius intervening there in the hole there with Sakozu, she had been joining him in that hole dead. So
yeah, I know the show thrives on the crew adapting in situations, but we did have several of those moments where the plan doesn't work without random coincidence. It, like you said, it's almost like Sikozu's part wasn't really needed, other than it kind of got her. I guess she did have to get the girls. That was kind of the goal. It seemed an odd way to do it because Dargo's part was to get Rigel to get the pilot to crash the ship. Right? It was like a lot of moving parts, but really Rigel was the one who did all the
yeah,
work. So
yeah. I mean, I guess she was supposed to tell them about Dargo, and then she was going to get imprisoned, and then they're going to break out. I guess, but we kind of skipped that and jumped right to, oops,
yeah,
dig a hole and go fill it with yourself.
yeah. We moved to grave really fast.
Yeah, we kind of cut that middle part out there and went right to the end. Which, speaking of that, our little boy Scorpio here, nice kind of, I'm gonna call it like a mini cliffhanger with Scorpio here. Is he really dead and buried or not? I mean, he survived getting shot point blank, but now he's got to claw his way out of being buried alive, or well, mostly alive. There's a riff on mostly dead there. But yeah, it's another nice way to emphasize that Grayza is now the big bad, and she's the one to be scared of, not Scorpius, who's now dead and buried in a hole somewhere.
Yeah, I was actually expecting an update in the trivia section on that because is the actor taking a break, kind of like we did with some of the others. But I guess we'll just have to wait and find out because we've got a main character that's potentially covered up at the moment. So
Yeah, because unlike Grayza, Scorpius is in the credits, right? In opening credits. So I guess next time if he's off the credits,
right,
hmm, yeah,
they'll have to dig up something else to do with him.
that's right. Or maybe he gets resurrected too, like the name of the episode.
Oh. Or we just bring out Harvey and call it good.
Yeah, there we go. Same difference. And speaking of Grayza, our new big bad, we kind of learn more about what her sweat probably is, something called Heppel oil, and that gland implanted in somebody shortens their lives. So I guess, did she do that willingly for some reason? Or is there more to her story that we haven't seen yet, which we've only seen her what 3 times so far, so probably, which means usually I like how they're doling out slowly about the big bad. Like it took us a while to learn all about Scorpy until we had that big episode last season, I think, where we got this entire backstory from when he was
Yeah, like from
born
his
from
perspective.
yeah from when he was born his idea from when he was born until his rise up in the peacekeeper ranks there. So if that's the case for Grayza, I'm fine waiting because it's fun. It makes things interesting and keeps you coming back to watch. I guess we do kind of learn that the effects of this oil can be blunted or dulled by other means. In this case, our little bug pal whose insides make you forget things. Again, kids, don't do drugs. But now that we do know this, of course, now I'm wondering if they'll kind of work up some of that when they get back to Moya for when they encounter Grayza again, because they're going to encounter her again because she's the big bad now. So are we going to have some kind of antidote or partial antidote worked up next time?
Probably. I mean, gotta you gotta take into account your enemy at some point, right? You've got to figure out how to deal with her. And I agree that we're getting the nice slow build on her story. So maybe that'll make up for the parts that have just been really confusing, like the last episode. Not to beat the dead horse, but man.
Yeah, because she's a commandant, right? They called her in the one episode, so that must be higher than captain. I don't think Scorpius ever had a title, so yeah, I don't know what a commandant means or how to get to be one. But did she use that gland to get up the ranks? Is that why she had it implanted? Don't know. The mind wanders, and we'll find out hopefully in the
Except
next 19 episodes or whatever. So,
that makes her the highest ranking peacekeeper. I didn't think about that. Yeah, we haven't met anybody higher yet.
yeah, apart from like this mythical, not mythical, but the high command that they keep talking about. So
Right, but on screen we've gotten captains, and
yeah, she's the highest, I guess, rank.
Scorpius
Yeah.
was special ops or whatever, so he really was outside the chain, and now she's like higher than that. So
Yep. She's definitely higher than the captain because Brekka still reports to her. So, yep. And we have the last appearance of Elak and her pilot. They go out, though, in a blaze of glory, literally, helping their new friends escape from the Peacekeepers and save a whole planet. So, overall, not a bad way to go, you know, as opposed to what they're going to do is just kind of drift in the Leviathan burial ground there and just eventually pass away from just old age. So, at least they got to, have some excitement before they went. And of course, you get that little bit of tension, obviously, since she went early with Rigel still on board, much to his dismay and failed attempts to yell at Pilot to stop and I'm still here, please. And we get some really cool CGI, though, of Elak buzzing around the planet and the Marauders before crashing into them and exploding. So good job all around.
agreed. It was a fitting end that was better than like you say, just hanging out in the graveyard waiting for something to happen, and getting killed off while hanging out there, which was what was happening out previously. So yeah.
Yeah, you don't often see Leviathans in the atmosphere, like we mentioned the one time when Moya crash landed on the planet. So yeah, it's kind of cool. And of course, like we figured out last time, it was Uni behind the whole thing, or well, at least behind wanting to get the probes to use as weapons anyway. And Vela seemed more into just turning in the crew and splitting the reward with Uni so she'd get back to her research all by herself. And he would have gotten away with it too, except for those meddling kids. I mean, our crew.
Wow, an A Team and Scooby Doo reference in the same podcast.
Hey, we cross all genres here at the. We mix all the metaphors. I was waiting for, because that's the typical Scooby Doo, right? It's like, you peel off the fake rubber guy's mask, and it's like, it's Mr. Johnson.
my favorite was always Red Herring.
Yeah. And of course, they managed to reverse the effects of the probes at the last second, or microt. The planet gets its color back, because that's what happens, like we said before, when your magnetics go all wonky, you get dull.
Here we just call it summer and tanning, but
Yeah. And somehow, which we don't need to know, I guess, it also apparently restores a temple and people from 12,000 cycles ago when it was first activated, as if they never left. So somehow it preserved intact and out of time these people. So they never left. And it's like 1 second they were here and next second they were still here. So I guess there's your resurrection part of the episode title.
yeah. So here's my nitpick with the episode. I know they wanted to get movement on the Grayza storyline and make her a big part of this multi-parter, but this is interesting to me, and I would have much preferred we focus on the actual magnetics, probes, priests, etc., and get a solid resolution. I mean, I know we'll wrap up the episode, but you know, there's some interesting storyline here that we gloss over in 5 minutes that would have made a cool episode on its own of just this culture and planet, right? If we actually understood how this magnet thing worked. So
Yeah, I'm still confused. So like when you activate this thing, whatever's nearby gets like sucked into some like digital storage or out of time bubble or pocket or I don't whatever. Okay,
yeah,
whatever.
yeah, it was a transporter mishap, but they were stuck in the
Yeah,
buffer.
yeah, they're stuck in a
But
pattern buffer for 12,000 cycles.
but and there's the limit of my Star Trek knowledge, folks. But I get the entire bit of it. Yeah, but my point is, we don't even get a good look at those priests, right? I mean, they make it a point to show them from a distance, and they're just people in these interesting robes and stuff. But I don't know. I thought that would be a cool storyline, and I kind of feel like we missed out on it to get more Grayza.
Yeah, I guess they couldn't afford the extras, so I wasn't sure. Was that like just maybe people like far away from shot, or was it like CGI if like kind of people kind of stand there? I wasn't sure. Yeah. But yeah, it would be more interesting if we kind of learned something about them. But maybe we will. I don't know, because here at the end, Joel leaves behind our intrepid crew here to stay with these priests. No one really seems all that broken up about her leaving, except maybe Dargo a little bit. He wasn't.
Well, she
He,
is loud.
yeah, well, and her screams can melt metal, as we've seen on and off. I mean, they all think it's a great place for her to be, which I mean, yeah, it is. I mean, apparently she's been fascinated by this culture and this people for all her life, and now here she is. So I mean, yeah, it's perfect, right? I mean, okay, good place to be. Although the trivia mentioned that she was also wanted by the peacekeepers before, and probably also especially now with what happened on this planet. So I guess they better hope that they're right and they're not looking for her. Or maybe Grayza doesn't really care about Jewel because she's not really worth it, and she's got bigger fish to catch. And I don't know, maybe they'll come back to her at some point. I don't know.
The plot armor requires her to be freed up, right? I mean, because they needed the actor freed up, so you gotta kind of move her to the stage, but still allow room for her to come back. So a la Stark, right? They'll all be back one day.
Yeah, so your sentence is temporarily commuted, and yeah, once we catch the more important people, we'll come back for you.
Yeah, the prison system's overcrowded. It's not worth the.
Yeah, or she can turn on the triangle again and go hide for 12,000 cycles. And yeah,
That's a heck of an alarm system.
yeah, right. That's like your scorched earth alarm system. Yeah.
Especially if there's a possibility that you yourself could get stuck in a buffer for 12,000 cycles.
Yep, and hope someone comes along and figures out you have to get the probes so far apart and yeah, whack them all at the same time to wake them up. And all right, anything else to discuss about the OK episode 3 here?
No, I think we've dissected an episode that, as we said, has had its ups and downs, but I think it ended better than it started, and that's not a bad way to end. So,
Yep, ever forward. Speaking of which, on the next podcast, we'll do Farscape Season 4, Episode 4, Lava's a Many Splendored Thing, and playing our usual guessing game of what could that possibly mean? Well, first thing, an obvious thing, since they like riffing on existing titles and make it a little different, that sounds like Love is a Many Splendored Thing, which is a couple different things. The first original thing was it was a 1955 film about an American reporter who falls in love with a Eurasian doctor, and they encounter prejudice from her family and from Hong Kong society. I don't know how that fits with Farscape, but it's also a 1967 TV soap opera. Again, not sure how that fits with Farscape, but there's your little bit of entertainment history for the day. What does it mean for Farscape, though? Well, I think if I remember right from our other trivia from prior episodes, I think they mentioned Aaron is in episode 4, which is about time. So I'm guessing they finally catch up to Aaron. If you want to go off the lava in the title, maybe on some planet with lots of lava or volcanoes, active
she's on
volcanoes.
she's on Mustafar. Yeah,
Yeah, right. Again, crossing the streams.
she has the high ground.
That's right. And, John and Aaron have to have a nice discussion about their baby and their future together, or something like that. That's about all I got.
Which is way more than I have this time. I just now learned that bit of trivia. The trivia being these two are a movie and TV series that you
Yeah.
just threw at me.
I think it was a song too.
Ooh,
So maybe off the movie or later. I don't know, but I think it was a song too.
My guess would be it has to be about Aaron, though, right? Since we're way overdue for her to return this season. Like you say, episode 4, and past a multi. We had an entire multi-parter without Aaron. Has that happened before? I don't think so. So I think we may have had a first there that I didn't even think about.
Yeah, because usually all the multiparters have the crew, all the crew in them, whether they're together or not. Like the Look at the Princess, where Aaron was off with that political or whatever the foppish little lord guy that trying to hit on her. They're doing that rock climbing or whatever, and she was hardly in the. I guess she was part of it too. When trying to help John, but yeah, they were mostly separated. So yeah, I think it's the only time that the entire crew hasn't been in a multiparter.
Yeah, that's all I got
Yeah.
though.
Okay. Yeah. We'll find it next time. Yeah. So that's your homework for the Farscape part of next time. Hang out here for a little bit, and after some musical interlude, I'll have to see if there was any kind of Tales of the Empire little theme music there. We will discuss Tales of the Empire briefly. All right, so we're not going to do the usual recap of the episodes since they were really short, and there'd be like one sentence recaps literally of the 6 episodes.
Instead, we're just gonna have a short discussion.
Yeah,
Short.
really short. Yeah. So, quick summary. It was broken up into two three-part stories. The first involving Morgan Elsbeth, which you might remember from the main antagonist in the Ahsoka series, and basically how she wound up going from, I guess, where she grew up to Ahsoka. And the second little three-parter was about Barriss Offee, a former Jedi, and what happened to her after the Clone Wars. So I guess the biggest thing that stood out to me, if you look at the entire set of episodes, was that they were kind of polar opposites of each other, which is no pun intended for the final Barriss story there. I haven't seen the Tales of the Jedi series yet, so I don't know if that's how those stories went. I know there were two different things there, but in these two Empire ones, though, you have Morgan starts out innocent and becomes consumed with revenge and power by the end. And with Barriss, you kind of have the opposite. She starts out consumed with her revenge and betrayal, and ultimately renouncing that and trying to live a peaceful and helpful life. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, that's pretty insightful. I came at this as a different angle. I was more focused on the way the stories interacted with the recent shows, so I didn't even catch the symmetry there. That's kind of cool.
Because yeah, speaking of the how it ties into the current stuff, so yeah, the Morgan one does fill in like all the gaps leading up to somewhere just before the Mandalorian series, where we first see the live action version of her. It's kind of cool because I guess in the second one, I didn't know that she designed the TIE Defender, which is kind of cool. It's like the one that's got like like 4 different TIE panels on it that kind of come out on the on the sides or whatever. So it's kind of cool. And I guess that's how she wound up with Thrawn because the Empire flunkies that she pitched the TIE Defender to weren't that interested in what she wanted, or probably just took her design and snuck off and made it anyway without paying her. I don't know.
Right.
Which
They were just going to take over resources.
yeah. So Thrawn though was interested, and he sent his little assassin Rook there, and eventually Pelion to talk to her, and that's how she kind of wound up working for Thrawn, which then we see later in Ahsoka that she's full into Thrawn because that's she goes across the whole galaxy and the whole void of space and whole other galaxy just to get him. So
Yeah, it was cool to me seeing the backstory of this character that, like you said, just showed up randomly in an episode of The Mandalorian, and she had a Beskar spear. I mean, like, a very interesting character, and then find out that she's got Dathomiri witch training or something with her to get her to attracted to the planet to take Thrawn, to get Thrawn because that's where the witches were. I would have liked to have seen some of that backstory worked in earlier, but that's why I'm not a writer, right? They save this stuff for the small parts and focus on the big things. But yeah, I really like the fill in. I like having details filled in, and this was kind of a cool way to do it.
yeah, because it wasn't obviously like her life as however old she was, 12. Who knows, like a teenish maybe or preteen on Dathomir that gets wiped out by the droid armies and the separatists to like how she got the Beskar spear, how she got it's kind of like here's like a period of a couple days or weeks here when she's young and equally out when she's trying to sell the empire on her wonderful design and then okay, screw you guys, I'm going I'm going to burn it all down and
Well,
you know.
and that's one of the things these tales do, right? I mean, you commented on how short they are, but I think that's an interesting mechanism, right? Because you only get these little tiny snippets, and then you get these big arcs, and then you get these big, 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 and then it jumps, and you're like, wait, now what's happening, right? Because so much has changed in between that you're having to catch up to where these characters are now.
Yeah, and it's kind of more just to fill in the gaps. We don't need, here's the next 25 years of her life, year by year. It's just kind of like here's the highlights that, drove her to where we eventually see her in the Mandalorian, and then somehow being captured because we don't see that's off screen, and then she gets released in Ahsoka, and then all the fun starts. So,
Right.
but yeah, talk about like one decision like setting a whole course of your life because she's like, no, I'm gonna go get weapons so I can go keep attacking these droids or whatever, and that gets like her friends killed and gets just everything just falls apart. I mean, so it's like interesting how like one little thing can like alter your entire life story here.
Yeah,
So,
that critical path deviation. Yeah.
hmm
Speaking of critical path deviations,
yeah. So then we get our other story, the Barriss one. I'll admit it's been quite a long time since I watched Clone Wars, and I haven't rewatched it, so I kind of forgot all about her. I knew who she was. I knew she was a former Padawan of Unduli. I can't remember whoever her master was, but
I'm terrible with names, so I'm not going to pull. I
yeah,
can tell you what she looked like, but
yeah, I can picture her too, but yeah, I can't think of it. So yeah, I forgot all about her, and then when she became an Inquisitor, I think in the second one, whatever it was, first one, I try to remember if she was part of that Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order game because I played that. I play all the Star Wars games, but I went and looked, and that was just the second and ninth sisters in that game. So whatever number sister she might have been, they didn't mention it. So, but it wasn't those two. So
I kind of came into it from the Clone Wars things. I was really into Clone Wars at the time, and I've rewatched those with the kids and things like that. And she played a really large part in the Ahsoka story, right? Because Ahsoka leaving the Jedi and forging her own path was because of the interactions and the actions of Barriss and how the Jedi treated Ahsoka during that. I, I didn't think we would get a glimpse of her into her future, because she was just kind of a one and done. Like we didn't get these cool jumps and backfillers. But yeah, and I'll throw a little spoiler alert really quickly in here. But since we're talking about him, I think we're good. I really hope they don't kill her off, right? Because I think this would be a great setup to lead into a series or something with her, because there's a lot of good movement there, and I'm interested in the healer and the character she became post Jedi, because that's always interesting to me is how these former Jedi can exist outside of the structure, right? We kind of saw that a little bit with I'm gonna blank on the character's name, but the guy from Ahsoka that was had the orange lightsabers and kind of had forged his own not Sith, not Jedi path, right? And Ahsoka is a good example of that as well. So these non-gray Jedi or whatever you want to call them are always interesting to me, where they kind of make a structure outside of the Jedi or Sith.
Balin Skull.
Yeah, that was the guy I was
Yeah,
looking for.
hmm yeah, and her master was Luminar Unduli. I got the last name right.
Yeah,
Okay.
you had me beat
So,
on that one. I was never going to pull that.
of course, I also play the Android or the mobile game Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes, and they have like obviously to get you to pay money or to they all the characters or all the things that she's on one of the characters, so that's why I remember. But yeah, it did seem like they did kill her off there at the end, like that what the fourth sister, whatever her name was, seemed like she killed her, like ran her through with a lightsaber, and then she walked out by herself. So,
Yeah, but she was only mostly dead.
but then
So
again, yeah, I mean, I mean, I was holding up personally that Tech would still be alive, so I'll give you hope that Barris is still alive. So.
yeah, I kind of feel like Tech had at least had his story, and I know we got these little snippets, but I think a series on Barris would be kind of cool.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't think the fourth sister here, I guess, learns the error of her ways and like stops being an inquisitor. I think she still keeps going, right? Because I don't know if we saw her later in the Kenobi stuff. I can't remember.
I don't think
I,
this is this character.
yeah,
There's a story there. It'd be kind of interesting.
yeah. So maybe she did. This was like her way of snapping her out of it, so to speak, and she renounces the Inquisitors, maybe. So now you got another one out there,
Yeah,
until they hunt her down, or because no one leaves the mafia. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
except for
So,
all the people who've left the mafia. So
yeah, well, except for everybody else that gets out. But since the head of the Inquisitors, who's Darth Vader, doesn't really like that betrayal bit too much, But who knows? Again, it's open-ended enough that they could, in theory, delve into it some more, or even since they only show again like three snippets of her life over however many years, which could be a lot towards the end there because she looks a little older at the last there. So could be what, 20, 30 years, maybe? Who knows? It's hard to tell, right? But she was definitely older at the end there, so not like a Padawan kind of newly minted Jedi age, So there's lots of story there,
Yeah,
like you said.
they could pull an Andor and go back to between leaving the Inquisitors and that scene, right? And what happens in between?
Yeah, because even if she is dead at the end, yeah, you got another 20 years to play with, like Andor, because they all died. Spoiler alert.
Wait, Andor's dead?
Yeah, Rogue One,
Huh. Wait a
right? They,
minute.
they all they all blew up on the beach there when the planet blew up, right?
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what? Yeah. So spoiler for a however many 8, 9 year old film or whatever at this point, whatever it is. So there you go.
Never tell me the age.
That's right. Never tell me the odds. Yeah. So yeah, overall, I liked it. They were cool little stories, cool little snippets. Short enough where you didn't have to invest like 8 hours into the thing, but fun and long and interesting enough to keep your attention. And I did blow through them all in like an hour and a half because
Yeah,
because they were small, but that's fun.
yeah. There's an interesting thing there too. Of if that was the only Star Wars we got this year, I'd be disappointed, right? But mixed in amongst a good number of Bad Batch and then the live action stuff, it's like that's pretty cool, and it gives me hope that they're going to continue doing stuff with the animation since we wrap Bad Batch, don't really know what's coming next, right?
Yeah, because I think everything is live action, right? That's coming. Acolyte, obviously, we're gonna do that next time, some of it, but even the other stuff, like the Skeleton Crew, that's live action, right?
Yeah, I'm not tracking any animation on the horizon that they've announced. So, but they've got to. They've got too much technology there.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, they have all the all the models, it's the same animation style, I think, right? Between Clone Wars and
Yeah,
Bad Batch and these. I haven't seen the Tales of the Jedi one, but I'm assuming it's the same kind of style
it
as the
is.
Empire one here.
Yep.
So yeah, so
Yeah,
you,
it's
you already have all that. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, it's great to have. It probably doesn't take a lot to do these kind of things. So it's nice to like fill in the gaps of okay, here's what happened, or here in between. Here's how this person got that you saw them in this show. Here's how they got there. You don't have to know that, but it's fun to fill in the gaps.
right.
All right, so that was our brief, however long it was, summary of those. So next time, like we said, we will probably do at least three, hopefully probably four, so we can do like the first half of Acolyte.
Yeah. Otherwise, we'll drag it out.
Yeah, otherwise, yeah, it'd be like, yeah, yeah, we know there's been six of them have come out, but we'll just do the first four
Right.
or whatever. So
We'll do 1 and 3, and we'll do 2 and 4 next time.
there we go. We'll just put all eight into a bucket and pull them out randomly. There we go. Keep with the theme here.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, just as always, check the show notes, check the episode title, and that's what we did. So
Yep.
spoilers. Yeah. So with that, we will see you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.